Good evening, everyone. Nancy, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Nancy Basher is remote.
Excellent.
Nancy is remote this evening. Katie, welcome. Katie takes our notes.
How's everyone?
Hello. Nancy, do you know our newest member, Scott? Scott, Nancy?
I do not think so. Hi, Scott.
Hello.
And Dennis, you know Dennis? We haven't
Hi,
met
Dennis.
Hi, how you doing?
There's nothing about election of officers. He told me you were going to put that in there. He didn't?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we'll have to postpone it again. Thanks.
Is Tracy still on the board, or has she left us?
She's on the board, but she's last minute unavailable. She excused herself this afternoon, last minute business conflict.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if she had actually left the board and gone to do something else.
No, like you, we won't let her leave.
I love it.
Okay.
So if I could,
Yes,
so
please.
we were going to do election of officers this meeting. I didn't get it on the agenda, but I think we want to do another meeting maybe within the next month or two, because I'd like to revisit our social media policy, just to make sure we're still up to date. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman?
That would be fine.
If we could take that up and
Next
then,
meeting, I'll remind you.
okay.
Thank you. All right, do we have any printed minutes to look at, Mike? Has everyone read minutes that were originally sent out?
I didn't print them, they went out by email.
Yeah. Does everyone remember reading,
Yes.
everybody?
Yes.
Nancy, did you
Yes.
read those minutes as well?
Yes.
Any questions? I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before there's a motion, I have one minor correction on the minutes for May 26. I'm reflected on those minutes as Town Labor Council. I'm not actually Town Labor Council, I'm Town HR Council. So I would just suggest that one minor housekeeping amendment.
Is that all right with you, Katie?
Yes, of course. Sorry about that, Jack.
No problem.
It's Katie, right?
Yes.
And I just said, I wasn't at the March 3rd, 2020 meeting, but just wanted to clarify something in there on the second page. The next to last paragraph, the last sentence says a PIP would necessarily prohibit an employee from telecommuting. I assume that should be wouldn't. This is the latest copy I have.
Typo.
Just, yeah, I assume it's just a typo.
Just a
but
typo, Katie?
Yes. What should the
I assume it
correct
should be a
language
PIP wouldn't necessarily prohibit an employee from telecommuting.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have read
Thank you,
that
Scott.
either way, actually.
Yeah. Okay, any other corrections? No? I'll accept a motion.
Second.
No, anyone going to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second? Scott, you second?
I'll second.
Second, yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Aye. Correct. Okay. Okay, Mike, you want to lead us off in the next discussions, please?
Sure.
Electronic communication.
Okay, the intent of this electronic communication and computer use policy is just to update it. And, you know, it's been a number of years since we've looked at this policy. And, you know, while the intentions are the same and the procedures are much the same, some of the equipment and, you know, certainly social media has changed. And we do have a social media policy, but we wanted to kind of bring all of that in under this communications policy. So that's the intent there. We talked a little bit about, you know, internet guidelines, which, you know, was discussed in the prior policy. And then email was also discussed. One thing that we did change is that we talked about mobile and smartphones. I mean, some folks have issued phones, some folks have a stipend for phones. There are other folks that do not have that but carry personal phones into work. And so, you know, we've said in here that personal telephone calls may be permitted. And that's, we just wanted that to be clear, that, you know, it's not to interrupt with people's work. And that's, we look for managers to manage that. If it's interrupting with people's work, getting in the way of things, then, you know, then that could become an issue. But we don't want it to be that folks are prohibited from carrying their mobile phones into work, because we know that's a normal practice for them to have them in their pocket or in their purse. So, you know, that's one change that we think is, you know, just to clarify that. And then we have a, you know, just like the last one, on the last page, we have just a sign off that we'll keep in the employee's personnel file, just that they've received this and reviewed it. And that's what we've got in that policy.
Anyone have any questions or discussion on this?
Well, number one, I think Mike knows I've come from a couple of organizations where I've lived these policies and approved these policies. These are very, very well done. You know, particularly the updating to current experience. A good example being telephone usage and abuse of telephone usage. Used to be able to monitor that because you had the phone records. You know, who's using the phones. Now with cell phones, you really can't monitor it. It's really, you know, the honor system and just doing whatever you can to make sure people aren't abusing that privilege. So it's more challenging, you know, with some of the new technology. I'll just point that out. I'm curious about ransomware. Have you thought about ransomware, and have you done anything to upgrade your capabilities to prevent any kind of outside attack to take over the town's computers?
So the IT department, I'm quite certain that they have done that, and I know that the employees, the town actually received a grant last spring, and so that all of the employees are going through training modules. I think it was, Katie, was it 15 modules? Or so. There were a lot of these mini modules that you could do in 20 to 30 minutes. And one of them did include talking about ransomware, so there's some training going on. And I can't speak exactly to the combined IT department's capabilities, what they're doing there, but I know they're quite high speed and updated on that sort of technology.
All right, good, very good.
And that's ever evolving, we know.
It is.
It's
Right,
constantly
it's
changing.
the awareness, you know, the fact that they know about ransomware and what they can and can't do to, you know,
Right.
really help keep the system secure.
Mr. Chairman, Katie had her hand up.
Thank you. Dennis, so the training also has like phishing in terms of email, phone calls, like web browsing, just all kind of things to kind of give employees a flag if something kind of looks not right, don't click it, don't answer a phone call.
Sure.
There was a lot of training modules to kind of help on not just email, but website, phone. So
Right,
I took them all. So
yeah.
it was quite inclusive.
Yeah, I've been a victim of phishing myself. You know, they're very sophisticated, these outside entities, so it's quite interesting. You don't want to be on that end of it.
No.
On number 5, I'm just curious about, I don't know if this is new, you know, promoting personal political beliefs. Is that something you felt you had to introduce here, or was that always part of the language? This is under prohibited practices, number 5.
The third page, yeah.
Users shall not disclose confidential information or promote personal political beliefs.
Yes, that is actually, that's new. It's in line with our harassment and discrimination policies, but it is new to include this in the electronic and communication policy.
Right, good. I thought so. And then the only other thing that kind of hit me is on the sign-off here, you know, where the employee signs that they've reviewed this and they agreed to it. There's no language in here that they understand that any serious violation could lead to progressive discipline up to and including termination. I think it's kind of a key sentence to have somewhere in this document.
Actually, it does appear there, at least in my version. in section 7. It may also result in disciplinary action being taken against the employee up to and including termination. You're absolutely right, it's very important to have that, but I did see it there.
Yeah, no, I saw it too. I just thought in this statement where the employee actually signs it, that would be a real powerful place to put it.
Would it be a problem to reiterate that in that last paragraph?
No, it wouldn't. In fact, it probably makes sense to reiterate it there. And if we're going to rework any of the policy at all, I might suggest as well that where it says that there's no expectation of privacy, that be in bold. You can't say that often enough or boldly enough in policies like this. So I think that suggestion's an excellent one, and I would also recommend bolding the, I think it's 2 places where it says that there should be no expectation of privacy in any of the systems or data.
Good. Yeah, thank you for those suggestions, that's great. And we will reiterate what's in section 7 there, right on the page where they sign, maybe in the, one of the last 2 lines before the line where they print the name.
Signature, yeah.
And if I may, I have 2 very small housekeeping details. Again, substantively, I agree with the comments that this is excellent. But on item number 4, Internet Guidelines, B, authorization, the last line, it says, see section 3 above.
I saw that too.
It should be an Arabic 3 rather than a Roman numeral 3.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yep.
And in the same section 4, but under subsection F3, I believe it should read, and may not be removed without permission of the
Yes.
town manager.
Yes, you're correct. Thank you for that. Yeah, I had seen the one about the Roman numeral 3. I did not notice without, so thank you. Jack is always meticulous on these, and that's why we have him here. One of the reasons.
Anything else anyone wants to add? So I would entertain a motion to
Endorse this? to take to the
endorse this
selectmen?
with changes as noted.
So moved?
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nancy votes aye.
I think you have to do a roll call by now.
That's why I
because
did. With the person remote, right?
I think we all have to, by name, because we're remote.
Okay.
Sorry.
Dennis, your vote?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
And Gary, yes.
And Gary, yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Okay, if we're all set with that, the next thing I just wanted to really just mention briefly is the remote meeting participation policy. So the state has and has had for quite some time under 980 CMR open meeting law, a remote participation section 29.10. And the town had not adopted that until recently. So what we are operating under currently is the governor's emergency order, I think it was 50, and that allows us to do what we're doing this evening. And even more expansive, the entire committee and presenters could be remote under that emergency order, under COVID guidelines. And but I thought it was important for the selectmen to at least consider adopting the state's, what the state provision allows under the regulations for when this ends, so we still have some sort of remote capability. And admittedly, what's under CMR 940 is much more restrictive, and you've got to give purpose to why a person is not at a meeting, et cetera, at least it's something. I do believe that by the time we come out of this emergency order, that the legislature will be crafting something that's at least gives us a little more flexibility, because we and other communities have become used to this sort of, the ability to meet. For example, we've got Katie at home taking the minutes, where she can actually more efficiently type the minutes as we speak. We've also, for one of our committees, we've got an unpaid volunteer at home who, throughout the pandemic, has been able to take minutes remotely at home because we're doing this. So I think there's a lot of capabilities and a lot of reasons to do this. I think it's good that we're able to continue, and I just wanted to mention that it's at least my belief, and Jack, I don't know if you've heard anything, I haven't heard anything specific, but that the legislature would be looking to update, some sort of a post-COVID remote participation capability.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I found this pretty restrictive in terms of even how we were operating under the emergency guidelines from the governor, limiting, one person.
With under 940 CMR.
Right, yeah.
Right, which we would fall back to.
Right.
At some point. Yeah, it's very restrictive.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because years ago, the town, did look at this.
Right.
And I was working here at the time, so it might have been 9 or 10 or 11 years ago, the town looked at it and decided, no, we don't want to do remote meetings.
Right.
And here we are,
Right,
looking
right.
at something that's actually gives us more flexibility. So
Right.
we have adopted something that we didn't want to do because it was too flexible.
Right.
And now, we really.
Now it's not flexible enough.
Yeah, so things have changed. Yeah, it is very restrictive, and if we went back to that, I think people would be like, ouch, it's taking a decade or two back. So, and that's all I wanted to say on that.
Mike, can I just say a couple things? I agree that this policy that you sent to us is very restrictive, and could I just suggest that maybe we wait and see if the state is going to revise and make it a little more flexible and then propose to the selectmen? Or do you feel like you need to propose this very restrictive policy to the selectmen?
So what we did actually, back when we thought that the emergency order was going to be lifted and all of a sudden things were going back to normal, we actually brought this in front of the selectmen so that we at least had something. So the selectmen did vote this in. But we're not held by this more restrictive CMR. We can still operate under the governor's order. And so my thought on that was, at least it gives us a backdrop so that we can do some remote participation if all the COVID, guidelines were to go away. So it has been adopted, but we're not handcuffed by this restrictive 940 CMR.
Okay,
It's really just a.
thanks for the clarification.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's just a backup plan, so there's nothing we need to do on that. I just wanted to communicate that so folks knew where we are on it. And
So, excuse me, do we have to vote on this at all? Can we wait on it, or can we endorse it as it is, knowing that we're always operating under the less restrictive emergency?
so the remote participation, we don't have to do anything on that. That was more informative
Okay.
than anything, yeah. And then the third and final policy I wanted to discuss with you was the performance evaluation and review policy. And let me explain that the purpose of this is not to bring evaluations to town or to start evaluating employees or to create tools to do such, because we already do all of those things. We've already, several years back, we negotiated, I think it was 2 years ago, we did the final negotiations with one last union who did not have performance evaluation tools in their contracts. So we've already done all that. The purpose for this is really to give some overarching guidance and purpose to folks. Here's why we do evaluations. We do them to develop employees, and we let them know our intent is not to use evaluations as weapons. In other words, not to hold back money or not to fire people, but to actually develop them. And and let people know, and it lays it out right in this policy, that our expectation is that managers and supervisors will be giving informal performance evaluations throughout the year. So it should be by matter of conversations. And so I frequently talk to our directors and department heads and emphasize with them that an employee who finds out for the first time in June that they were doing great work all year and they're surprised, or that they're not doing so great and they may have money withheld or be put on a performance improvement plan in June, and that comes as a surprise. I regard that as a failure of management, and we hold our directors and managers accountable. So and they understand that, and they do a good job of that. But this is really to put it into writing across all of our union and non-union employees, all of whom are currently being evaluated, but just to give it some purpose and some guidance. So that's really what that's about.
There was a lot of guidance in there, I thought, especially for managers on how to conduct the meeting, and I mean, it was very detailed and well done. And I don't know, do you do any kind of performance appraisal training for the managers, or are they kind of just following the form and these guidelines?
Can I follow up on that? Because I had the same question. And I find the performance evaluation process probably the most important part of a manager's responsibility. And this is an excellent tool, and there's a lot of guidance in here. And I've found over the years, some people do this really well, and some people do it very, very poorly. And it is an issue, I think, of training. It's having the tools, but what is the training to make sure that people are using this tool appropriately, role-playing, all that type of thing? Because that's really when you get the excellent results with employees, where they really understand what's expected, they understand this process, they understand how it's used, it's being used fairly and objectively by management, and they get a fair opportunity to state their side of things if there are performance issues. So it's all here, but to me, it's all about the training, really, in terms of the effectiveness of a tool like this.
Yeah, so, really good questions, thank you. So, yes, we've done some training. I will say the last bargaining unit that we negotiated performance evaluations into was the Library Association. And that's where we spent the most time on that contract a couple of years ago, was talking about evaluations. And we agreed with, on both sides of the table that the training was critically important. And so we had several sessions of training with the supervisory and management personnel at the library on how to conduct the evaluations, both on the specific tools we were using and then some of the general guidance that's in here. I will say that when we hire managers, I have a conversation with them as part of the onboarding about these expectations of doing performance evaluations, and I tell them exactly what I told you, is that any surprises later in the year are really not excusable, and that I wouldn't surprise a manager with a good or poor evaluation they weren't expecting, and so I wouldn't expect them to do that with anyone else. But there is definitely room for improvement on doing this training, and I think this is the next step on doing this. And following up on what we did with the library evaluations, it's been on my mind to come back and do this sort of a guidance policy. And I will say that I did not craft this from scratch, and I just want to be clear on that, on both this and the communications policy. We went, Katie, myself, the town manager, we went and we looked at what are the best tools out there. So we looked at what other cities and towns are doing. And we started with a template, and then we took pieces from what other folks were doing on both of these policies. And we think that we've created the best of what's out there and created an original document from a lot of stuff that other people have written and are using. But the training is definitely something we need to do. I know that police and fire, they do training with their evaluation process, and I know they do a good job with that, again, with libraries. And the other ones, not that folks aren't doing a good job, but that weight is really on my shoulders to bring those training opportunities to them.
Just one other question. I'm curious about the length of your probationary period upon hire. What is the length?
So in general, it's 6 months. There's at least one unit, I think it's only one that's 12 months.
Right.
But for others, it's 6 months. And then the language in most of the contracts is such that with agreement from both the union and management, that can be extended for another 6 months.
Okay, that was going to be my question.
Right.
Right, great.
So it sounds like this is a brand-new policy, these guidelines, this is a brand-new document.
This is a new document.
Okay.
And it's really, it's guidance that we didn't have before.
Is it requiring a, like, annual performance write-up for each of the employees? Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so that's something that we do, and we have done for some time. And there are some units, and I would say, I think it may have been fire department that was doing it first. They've been doing it for years, and then we've brought on other units, along the way. Some who wanted to do it, some who we had to convince that it's a good idea to do it. And at this point, I think people see the value of it. They see we're not using it as a weapon. They see that we're using it to develop employees and both them and to deliver better service to the town. So the tools are out there. Most recently, in last spring's negotiations with Steelworker Unit A and B, we retooled the evaluation tools, and we bargained that into the contract. So those tools all exist.
Sure.
And so this policy doesn't change any of those tools. If we do change tools, we'd be talking to the units about it. And we do have language in the contracts that say that, as part of the management rights, that we can go back and look at those evaluation tools, but we wouldn't do that without talking to the unions anyways.
Curious, are people evaluated on the anniversary date or one set time during the year?
So we do our evaluations between May 15th and June 15th.
Okay.
So the tools go out to the supervisors, and actually it starts with going out to the employees to do a self-evaluation. Self-evaluation goes back to the supervisor. In the case of directors and department heads, those self-evaluations go to the town manager, and then, so they have 2 weeks to do that, and then between June 1st and June 15th, the managers will do their evaluations and then sit down and do a review, and then the employees have an opportunity to make comment, but sit personally with whoever's evaluating them. And then we do it on that time frame because the performance steps are they're effective July 1st.
The managers do peer evaluations of each other? Is that part of the process?
That's something that we have not done.
Right.
I'm open to that sort of a discussion, but it's not something that we do.
Right.
I know that the town manager, as part of his membership in ICMA, he does a 360 evaluation in
Right.
addition to being evaluated
Sure.
by the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
So that's something I'm familiar with, and I think there's value there.
A real great tool.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be interested in talking with you in a little more detail
Sure.
about that at some point, Dennis.
Sure, good, great.
Do we have a human resource director currently?
That's me.
You are officially a human resource?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, yesterday, our second person in Human Resources just started, and her name is Kate Levesque, and she's coming to us from, she's got experience in both healthcare, human resources, as well as the, several other consulting sort of, I don't know if that's the right term, but roles where she was doing human resources for 3 different industrial groups recently.
Okay.
But she started with us yesterday, so she'll be the one that's actually sending out these evaluation tools on May 15th to all the employees.
Scott, did you have anything to add?
Nope, nothing else.
Dennis, anything else?
No,
Jack, what about you?
Nope, I thought it was well done.
would
I don't
to
even have any
concur.
housekeeping details.
Thank you. I want to take the opportunity to, I know that Jack was appointed to this board by the selectmen recently, but I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the chairman, myself, and the rest of the board and the town to welcome Scott Yankee, who has applied to this board, was reviewed by Gary, myself, and the selectmen, comes very well qualified, and we're just really happy to have you here, Scott. So thank you for stepping up as a volunteer. I know you've got plenty of other things you could be doing. I know that it was a little bit of a rush for you to come from your job in Boston to get here, to get sworn in and be here, and also the preparation and just reading these policies. So thank you.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so you want a recommendation on this as well for the,
Yeah, if there was a motion to, and a vote
to endorse this to
yes.
the Board of Selectmen? I'll accept the motion.
so moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Scott, aye.
Aye.
Dennis, aye.
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Chairman, aye.
Very good. That's all I had to bring before the board.
Anyone else have any business they'd like to discuss? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.